What are global issues in post-secondary education and workforce development? How do solutions to these issues compare internationally? Hello, and welcome to the mini course titled Global and Comparative Education, sponsored by the UC Santa Barbara Orfila Center for Global and International Studies. My name is Travis, and I am a PhD candidate in education and research fellow at the Orfila Center. My research focuses on education policy, policy implementation, and program evaluation. This week, the mini course will cover issues in post-secondary education and workforce development. We will focus on issues common to higher education and the workforce, along with methodologies used to evaluate education policies shaping these components of national educational agendas. The articles in this section highlight issues in post-secondary education and workforce development. These concepts have implications for the ways we prioritize policies for higher education and implement practices in our institutions, particularly as we transition away from educational programs to the workforce. Considering the implications of education on the workforce and other economic development demands, how do education policies leverage institutions of higher education internationally? The expansion of higher education has occurred globally, but not without repercussions. As the demand for highly skilled labor and other economic development priorities come to the attention of government leaders, the resources to meet these demands do not necessarily keep up. The shortage of resources to pour into institutions of higher education has led international economies to expand and privatize higher education. The implications of the privatization of institutions of higher education has had significant impacts on science, technology, engineering, and math fields, along with social quality. Moreover, the privatization of higher education can be observed almost in parallel to growing income inequalities. How can individuals obtain higher education with the increased cost of attendance and the limited resources to succeed in obtaining a higher education degree? Over recent decades, the growth of the education sector has occurred across the segments of post-secondary education, including two-year community colleges, and four-year universities. One area of education policy includes career, technical, and vocational training. The facets of this educational policy include providing skills-based education that is directly transferable to the workforce. These policies are particularly focused on increasing local capacities of individuals to meet the needs of locally based economies, such as healthcare, engineering and computing, and even STEM education. How can schools and other educational institutions provide more access to skills-based education? Access to educational programs remains a major issue in post-secondary education policy and workforce development. Through processes correlated with the privatization of higher education and factors of inequality discussed in previous videos, students begin to lose access to post-secondary education institutions. Issues of access can be conceptualized by using theories that we've previously discussed. If we think back to the philosophy of education, we can now question who has access to education, and further compare educational policies internationally to understand which policies prioritize which students. Additionally, if we consider the sociology of education and imagine how educational policies at local, state, and national levels stratify societies, we can identify more equity-based or equity-oriented solutions to these issues. Now that we've identified contemporary issues in both primary, secondary, post-secondary, and workforce development, what sorts of solutions are available to solve these problems? In the next video, we will cover educational organizational change and human development. Access the syllabus and research articles on my website. Here you will also find an active forum for weekly topic discussion. Are you interested in learning more about global and comparative education? Click the links to this video to learn more about course objectives, activities, and requirements. Follow me and the UC Santa Barbara Orfila Center for more information about upcoming sponsored events related to global and comparative education. Thank you, and see you again next week.